Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. While I have you here, go ahead and put your name in the chat box so I can take attendance. It's more just for me to kind of get familiar with your names and yeah. And so you know where the chat box is too. Excellent, excellent. All right. Kovu. Oh, Kovu. I know you. Hi. I don't know if you don't probably remember me, but we were in a meeting together, like a Zoom thing, for the caravan. So it's nice to see you. I was the one in the orange shirt. Anyways, that's great. All right. I think I know a couple other folks in here too, so I'm excited to meet everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our class, Art 100. So yeah, I don't really, I have an agenda to kind of work off of, but I kind of plan to have this class how I typically have in-person classes, because originally this class was meant to be taught in person, and that's what kind of teacher I was before the pandemic. So this kind of format of talking to y'all, talking to you about art, and just connecting on a one-on-one level is more kind of my speed. But like I mentioned, attending these meetings is not vital to your grade. It's not going to affect you really in any way, but you know, knowing how to be a good student, interacting with your professor, and kind of like engaging is key to getting an A or getting a good grade. So I do think there are some benefits because of that. So yeah. But again, I'm not going to deduct points or count points against you for not attending. So yeah. All right. But I do want to do introductions, just kind of a quick go around. I want to hear folks, your names mostly, and let's see. I don't really want to do a question yet because there's so many in here and I kind of want to wait until the second time around. So maybe just name and let's do major. And if you don't have a major, just say undecided because that's cool too. So let's see. What we're gonna do is popcorn, which means we'll start with someone, and then once you say your name, name, pronoun, and major. I'm gonna put that in the chat box. So name, pronoun, major. Pronoun meaning what do we call you by? She, her, he, him, they, them. You just let us know. So, okay, so what a popcorn is basically I'm going to ask, for example, Leilani is right next to me on my screen. So I'll be like, Leilani, and then you say, you know, name, pronoun, major, and then you pick someone else to go, and then they'll introduce themselves. And I'll keep track of folks that have gone as we go along. So once you introduce yourself, don't forget to unmute yourself because everyone is muted right now. So, all right. So Leilani, take us away.
Hi guys, I'm Leilani, or you can call me Lilo. Either one works. She, her. My major right now is Business Office Technology Executive Assistant. I'm also completing requirements for nursing, and I'm picking Kovu.
Hi, I'm Kovu. Pronouns Kovu, he, him, his. Psychology is my major, and I am going to popcorn it to Saeed. Did I say it right? I don't know if I said it right. Saeed's just there. Okay, gonna popcorn it to Angel.
Hi, my name is Angel. Pronoun he, him, his. Economics is my major. And popcorn to Dominique. For Dominic.
It's Dominique.
There's two of us.
Oh,
Oh.
You go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dominique. My pronouns are she, her, and my major is biology.
wonderful.
And I'm gonna pick Melanie.
Melanie. Okay. Let's skip her and go to Dominic because he was going to go too.
All right. My name is Dominic. I go by he, him, and my major is nursing. And then let's go over Cameron.
Oh, Cameron doesn't have a mic, but his name is Cameron, and plan major is biochemistry. All right. All right, so I'm gonna popcorn to Madison. Madison, can you hear us? Oh, just unmute yourself. There's a button kind of on the bottom that you click. It looks like a microphone. First day of school stuff. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you, Madison. Oh, you got it. Can you hear us? Madison, can you hear us? Oh, okay, welcome back. Let's see, Natalie, are you there?
Hi, my name's Natalie. My pronouns are she, her, and my major is liberal studies for elementary education.
Cool. Who do you popcorn to?
I'll pick Emma.
Hi, my name is Emma. My pronouns are she, her, and my major is elementary education, emphasis in special ed. And popcorn to Bella.
Hi, my name is Bella. My pronouns are she, her, and my major is engineering. And I'll popcorn to, has Rachel gone?
No, I have not. Hi, I'm Rachel. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm majoring in chemistry. I'll go to Cameron.
Oh, Cameron already went. Pick another one.
Not bad. I'll go to Vanessa then.
All right. My name is Vanessa. My pronouns is she, her, and I'm majoring in criminal law. I'll pop into Leticia, I think, right?
Leticia. Okay. Can you pick someone else?
Yeah, I'll do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Leticia wrote in the chat. I'm so sorry. Y'all are really fast on the chat. Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay. Hello, my name is Leticia. I'm using all computers. Doesn't have a mic. Okay, no worries at all. Pronouns are she, her, and major is psychology. All right. Okay, I'm going to go to, let's see. Ellie, is Ellie here?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
What do I say?
Sorry, name, pronoun, and major.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth, but I go by Edley.
Mm-hmm.
I go by she, her, and my major is biology.
Biology, okay. Great. Okay, let's pick, is it Yaya? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's right. My name is Yaya, and I go by he, his, and my major is computer science. And I pick Leith.
Hi, my name is Laith. My pronouns are he, him, and my major is undecided.
Great. I'll help you pick someone, Laith. Oh, we have someone in the chat who said Noila. Pronoun she, her. Major is vocal music. Okay, let's go to Hans. Are you with us?
Yes, good morning. My name's Hans. Pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a nursing major.
Cool. All right. I'll help pick who's next because we're kind of whittling it down now. So let's see here. Ragda? Oh, yes. Ragda, does your microphone work? She, her, okay. So Ragda wrote in the chat, oh, oh, that's right. Okay. Ragda, her pronouns are she, her, majoring in nursing, and she has lovely kids making noise. All right. Let's see who else. Madison, does your mic is not working yet, right?
I'm just using my phone now.
Oh, okay. Hi.
I just decided to do that. Hi. So what was it? My pronoun is she, her, and my major is international security and conflict resolution.
Cool.
And is that it? Just those two?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, great. Good job thinking on your feet with that one. Let's see if we got everyone. Oh, Syed, does your microphone work?
Yeah, sorry guys, I got disconnected when I was doing my intro.
No worries.
My name is Syed, and my pronouns are he, him, and I'm currently majoring in biology.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. I feel like we almost, who hasn't gone yet? Oh, Jaleel. Is Jaleel with us?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hello everyone, my name is Jalil Hamdard and my pronouns are he, him, and major business.
Business, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see here. Lisbeth, I know you just joined us, but if you can unmute yourself and tell us your name, pronoun, and your major.
Yes, my name is Lisbeth and my major is nursing.
Okay.
Sorry, I had trouble logging in.
No worries. Okay, and do you go by she, her, they, them? What do you prefer?
She.
Okay. Natalie?
I already went.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
Let's see. And I think Vanessa, you haven't gone yet?
I already went to.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right, we're good. I think we got everyone.
I haven't been, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Mohammed.
It's Khalid. My name is Khalid, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and my major is human biology.
Mm-hmm. All right. Has anyone else not gone? Introduce themselves? Okay, great. Just a reminder to also type your name in the chat box. To find the chat box, it's an icon at the bottom kind of bar there if you're on your computer. If you're on your phone, it's easiest to find when I type a message. So let me type that here. Type your name in the chat box. If you're on your phone, this message is going to pop up. You can just click on it and it's kind of like texting. So there's that. So make sure to put your name in the chat box so I know that you're here. Basically, the chat box stays like with me. It turns into a file and I can like reference it whenever I need to. I really like the chat box for just questions, comments. You can really use it for anything. It's a great way to interrupt without actually interrupting. So feel free to use that at your pleasure. All right, great. So it's really nice to meet everyone. So I'm Professor Moreno. And yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we kind of move on and talk about some logistics and then talk about art before we leave. We won't forget to talk about art. So yeah, I am a professor of art history right now, and what I've noticed with everyone so far is that there's no art history majors, which is pretty typical. Art history is not the most popular major, just in the sense that it comes with some stigma, actually, of what you can do with an art history degree. When I was getting my art history degree, I got my bachelor's and master's in art history. And when I was in those programs, there was constantly reminders of, you know, top 3 useless majors. And mine was always on there. And it kind of gave me actually more motivation. I like to kind of push back and be a little bit rebellious. So I was like, well, I'm going to go hard for art history then, you know, and see if it's useless, you know, when I'm done with it. So that's kind of where my mindset is with art history. It's a very useful, useless degree. So I'm excited to kind of share that world with you a little bit more. But actually for the last few years, I haven't been teaching art. This is actually the first time I've taught art in a few years. I did teach a class for a year at Grossmont called Chicano Mexican art. And that was part of the Puente program at Grossmont. So I did teach art. That was about maybe 3 years ago now. But I've been teaching Chicano studies. Chicano studies is basically US history from a Chicano perspective. So all of those things that weren't in your textbook in your US history classes in high school about Mexicanos, about African Americans, about Japanese Americans, I have taught those histories in my classes. So yeah, I'm coming from a place where I'm very interested in culture, especially visual culture. And that really ties in with art history because art is all about images, what we see. It doesn't just mean Michelangelo and Picasso. It's literally about everything that you see. So that's what I really love about art. But as far as, aside from being a teacher, I have been a curator before, which a curator just means someone who organizes an art exhibition based on a theme. I'm going to have y'all create your own exhibition as well in this class, which is going to be fun to kind of conceptualize that. I have been, I wrote this in my profile, so you can kind of go view that, but I've had your average jobs too. Like I've, you know, flipped burgers, I've served coffee for a long time. I've been a gallery manager, I've been a conservator, which means that you like make sure the artwork is pristine and conserved and protected. I've been in a lot of positions in the art world, so we can kind of talk about that as time goes on. And then I'm also involved in the organizer community here in San Diego. I volunteer and organize with a group called the Armadillos Search and Rescue, which is a search and rescue group that goes into the desert, primarily the Sonoran Desert, to look for migrants who have been reported missing. So that's the main group that I organize with, but I'm also organizing with We Got San Diego, which is a core group of individuals focusing on mutual aid right now in San Diego. So yeah, I'm very interested in migrant justice, racial equality, and you know, these are all just words until you prove them. So I'm excited to get to talk to you about that more, especially with this book, this giant book that I've asked y'all to purchase. So I really like this book because so art is typically aligned with Western art, so European art, yeah, there's a certain type of representation in art, right? That's typically oriented towards white men. And what I love about this book is it includes all different kinds of cultures, all different kinds of perspectives. When I was in school, I didn't encounter a female artist until I was in my like third year of study. And with this book, that's just not the case. They mention Louise Nevelson, and she's a female artist, and that's, I think, on the third page, the second page. And that's really important because we want to see artists who look like us, who have similar perspectives, who we can learn from, who we trust, who we resonate with. Also in the first chapter, they talked about the Virgen de Guadalupe as an artwork. I thought that was like a really beautiful moment too. So yeah, that's a little bit about the book. Okay, let me hop over to my agenda so I don't continue rambling. So I did kind of leave it up to you all to check out the syllabus, but I did want to open it up to questions if anyone has any questions. And I'm going to share my screen just to look at the grading rubric real quick and make sure y'all understand what is expected of you in terms of the grading. Let's see here. Think about, as I pull this up here, if y'all have any questions about the syllabus. Okay. And since you all are not art history majors, a lot of you are taking this to transfer, and I think that's totally, you know, legitimate. That's a good reason to take a class, is to transfer to you know, a university and study the specific thing that you want to study. But what's great about art is that it incorporates so many different topics and so many different specialties that you can really apply it to any career, any field of study moving forward. But what I focus on is like Chicano art, revolutionary art, political art. So that's kind of where my perspective is leaning. But this is a survey course, so we're going to talk about religious art, we're going to talk about film, we will talk about the European artists, you know, we'll get to know them too. But it's a survey class, which means that we are just going to look at art as a whole. And how I've kind of organized the class is I've hand-selected chapters from this book that I think are going to be most like relevant and most interesting for y'all. Okay, so let me scroll down here to the grading policy. Okay, does anyone have any questions about grading, what is expected of you? You can type them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. That's one thing I mentioned in the introduction video. You can raise your hand. I think it's by clicking participants, and then there's an option to kind of, there's like a little blue button that says raise your hand. Because I do prefer to hear voices, but I do understand if you want to type in the chat box. And then there's also the reactions button, which is good just, you know, to kind of show engagement, but you don't have to use that as well. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward, you know. We have discussions where I'm going to pose a question to you and then you respond. You all have been doing really great on your introduction discussion. Inquisitive. Okay, inquisitive is 1/4 of your grade, so 25% of your grade. Inquisitive is basically a tool online where you take quizzes, but they're very low stakes quizzes. So they're quizzes that you can, I believe you can like improve upon them. They're kind of like interactive and they give you the answer as you go along. But what I love about these quizzes is that it kind of teaches you the material as you go. So if you don't read every single page, which to be honest, you know, it's a lot of reading and you have other things going on in your life. So inquisitive is the best way, honestly, to learn the material without reading every single page. And yeah, so I was going to show that to you in a second. But that's a big part of your grade, just because it's on you to complete it, to finish it. And it's also very low stakes. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Then we have more traditional weekly quizzes. The reason why, and there's 5 total. So there's the syllabus quiz, and then there's 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 4 after that. The quizzes are in place of a midterm. So I chose not to give you a midterm and instead do these kind of simple, like smaller quizzes based off of our conversations during the week. Museum assignment, discussion based. So this is going to be one discussion post that is about visiting a virtual museum. And I will prompt you more on that once we get towards it. But this is just one single discussion post about a museum that you're going to visit online. Curate an exhibition, I'll give you a prompt for that later, but again, it's about creating a show and basing it on a theme, right? So if you're really into science, you're definitely going to create an exhibition that's about science and art. So you can start looking through the book and thinking about what artists are interested in science. So what I love about this project is that you're going to listen to your own interests and start to think about the art that you actually like, which is all a big part of it as well. And then the final exam is a straightforward exam. So we do have to have one of those in our classes. Okay, so I got a couple questions. Is it best to follow the modules to make sure we complete schoolwork on time? Yes. So the modules are designed to be worked from the top to the bottom, as I mentioned before. And one thing I noticed is sometimes people ask questions about something that they haven't gone through in the module. So I recommend like at least skimming the material in the modules that are available to see if there's information there that you need to know. But yeah, basically you would click on this first one. And then what I like to do is click, scroll down and click on the next button down here. And this just takes me to the next page. And then when you're done with this one, click next. And then you scroll that and click next. Obviously, you know, reading and taking in the information that I've put on here for you. One thing I want to mention is, so I took an online class over the summer that was about how to teach online, and it put me in the perspective of a student. And one thing I noticed what I did is I skimmed a lot of the material, and I didn't read things as closely as I could have. And it didn't help me prepare as best as I could have. So I put some reminders in there to just kind of slow down, take it at your own pace, like revisit information if you need to. Not all of you intended to take an online class this summer, and it really is a skill to take an online class and to have that mindset. So just be gentle with yourself and know that it's not something that you should be automatically good at. Okay, if you have any more questions about the modules and how they work, let me know. Okay, how do we know when the inquisitive assignments are due? Okay, so inquisitive assignments are due at the start of each class. So today I'm going to give some leeway because it's our first class, but what you would have done is you would have had the inquisitive for the introduction chapter done already by 8:59 a.m. And let me show you what they look like here. So this is inquisitive. And these are all of the chapters that I've assigned to you. I think you can do them ahead of time. I think you can do the work ahead of time, but they do have deadlines for when to complete them. So you click on that here. And this page will look different for you, but. And then each inquisitive quiz does take around 20 minutes. So I would budget that amount of time to spend on inquisitive, which is the shortest amount of time that they offered. So I at first, was assigning these and it was saying, oh, fill out 30 questions. It's going to take an hour. And I was like, y'all don't have an hour sometimes. So this will take you 20 minutes to answer at least 10 questions. This is a new book and a new tool that I'm using. So I'm still learning it as well. But I think it's really valuable and it's also pretty fun. So bear with me in terms of like the details and the logistics of how this works. But they do give you a lot of information as a student on how it works and what you can do to earn the highest grade possible. Do we need 100% in inquisitive to get full credit? Yes. So if you only do about 80% of the inquisitive quizzes, then you'll get 80% of that 50 points. And I'll calculate that. Okay, so start answering questions here. Okay, so once you kind of jump in here, read the instructions carefully. So this one says, which of the following artworks is the most representational in style and which is non-objective? So in the book, they talked about different ways artwork is shown. It's representative, it's non-objective. So what you would do is, okay, so this says drag each item on the left to its matching item on the right. So this is pretty interactive. So I would say the most representational artwork here would be this one in the middle. Okay, and then it gives you some information. So this is where if you haven't read, like this is going to be key information. So this says the marble sculpture Forever Free is an example of a representational work because there is a man standing with chains around his wrist and a woman kneels beside him with her hands clasped. So it's representing like actual people, real people. And then non-objective, so something that doesn't seem to have an object would be down here. Okay. And again, you can read that and then you click the prompt, next question. Question confidence, if you look right here on the right-hand side, you can adjust this to where if it's a question you absolutely have no idea about, you can slide this down and what it will do is shift the amount of points that the question is worth. So it's going to give you more questions, but for less amount of points. If you're super confident, you can scroll this up and it'll give you, more points for the question because it's kind of like a gamble, right? It's like, oh, I have, pocket kings in my hand and I know I'm going to win this. So I'm betting, a bunch of money and you have confidence that you're going to win that pot. And so the same goes for kind of these questions. If you know you're going to answer it right, you can bump up the scale all the way up and it will give you more points and less questions. But if you don't even have to mess with this if you don't want to. You can just keep it in the middle and just go at your own pace. Just say, I think I know it, kind of like taking tests in general. And once you continue to complete it, your little line will move across here and it'll tell you your grade and you can keep going until you get 100%. So this one is a little bit more involved, but still you drag the words over and you can do this on your phone too, I believe. I believe it's pretty good on your phone. So yeah, drag these over here and keep working until you find the right answer. Okay, so I think I want to stop there with talking about logistics, but please type in the chat if you have any more questions about logistics. I do want to start talking about art now. So let me know if you do have any. I know we're kind of speeding through things and it's really not fair, but I do want to keep these sessions shorter. So we have about 20 minutes left. Okay, oh
I have
yeah,
a quick
Dominic, go
question.
ahead.
Is there a comprehensive schedule for when the inquisitives are due? I was looking around and I couldn't find anything saying what was due when, but we have like 30 inquisitive things to do.
So the general rule of thumb for those is that they are to be done before the lecture that they line up with. So if you look at the reading schedule, let me pull that up here. I wanted to kind of get you guys into a pattern for the next 6 weeks. And what that looks like is basically, reading, inquisitive, lecture, discussion, quiz. So that's kind of the timing of the things. So let me show the reading schedule to you. So for example, today we are talking about the introduction. So today is Tuesday, the 23rd. And so what you as a student would do is complete the inquisitive before today's lecture, starting at 9 a.m. I do think when you go to the inquisitive page on the link, to the inquisitive, I think it does tell you here the due dates as well. If you
I'm looking at it right now. It doesn't have any due dates.
It doesn't? Oh, okay.
No.
See, these are things I'm learning.
So like looking at the reading schedule, it says for Thursday we have 1.1 and 4.8. So we just do those two specific sections.
Exactly.
So just chapter 1.1, line shape, and then what's 4.8? Art of social conscience. Okay.
On your end, does it show you the order like mine does?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's all in order of chapter, not in order of due date, because there is no due date.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ask follow up on the publisher or with the publisher about that, but.
Oh, and I did the intro thing yesterday, and I ran into a couple of problems where the book was saying one thing and the questions were saying another thing. Like I ran into one question where it was like about a teacup, and it was like, when was it made? And the book stated it was 17th century, but the inquisitive thing was saying it was 16th century.
Really? And it marked you down, or it didn't give you the points?
It told me I was wrong.
Oh, heck no. Okay. Can you write that down?
And also, yeah, and also some of the pages, because it'll tell you like what page to find some of the answers on. Some of the pages were just like way off.
Okay. I'll ask about those things. So you're saying you didn't have fun? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
To be honest, like the first time using it was really frustrating because of those things.
100%. It takes a second to get used to. Yeah. Like it's one of those things where you feel like it's working against you until you know how to, play with it. So thank you for telling us about this. I will find out about that, but can you do me a favor and type out what you told to me about that question that was wrong? And just send it to me in a quick email.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you so much. Or screenshot, whatever you want to do for that.
Sure.
Screenshots are your best friend, by the way, too, in this class. So, okay, so let's talk about art really quick. I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about art, and I will answer your questions individually. If I haven't gotten to them yet, I'll send you an email about those. Okay, so let me flip my screen over. let's see here. I do also want to mention that this is an art history class. So we're talking about art through the ages, you know, through the different time periods. It's not an art making class. So I just want to make sure to set your expectations and make sure you know that this class is about studying art already completed by artists and thinking about, you know, the meaning of the art pieces throughout history. So it feels sometimes more like a history class. So I just want to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page about that. It's not an art making class, but it can very much inform your art making practice because making art is all about referencing other images, other artists. It's about being inspired. So this will definitely help you if you are an artist and are seeking to make things. Also, my background is very much heavily involved in theory, critical race theory, gender studies, history. So those are kind of the lenses that I put on looking at art. But I am going to follow the book pretty closely just because it's really good and there's a lot of great information. So I do want to tell you, as we look at this big question of what is art, that in the chapters there are keywords that are bolded. I don't think it's necessarily worth your time to like list all of the keywords and write out the definitions. I don't think it's worth your time just because we are not going to be memorizing all of those words. I don't think it's like the most important thing to be done in this class. However, there are going to be a few words that I emphasize and that will be useful to you when you're writing about art. So those I will emphasize and will let you know, like, this is a word that you should be spending time using. But I don't want you to waste your time kind of like writing down all of the words and the definition, especially when they're in your book already. What I want you to get from the book are kind of these like bigger ideas. For example, what is art? Oh, there's still some people trying to get into the class. Okay, so in the first little bit, they talked about how art has many purposes. They talked about art can be made from almost anything. Art communicates sensations, ideas, and emotions by visual means. So it's like a language. And I thought that part really resonated with me and hopefully with some of you, that art is like a language. It communicates things. And a lot of the times it's new ideas, it's new feelings, and just new understandings of the world. It can help us see the world in new and exciting ways. So art is often looked to for original ideas, for futuristic ideas, for understanding of our current moment. And as the chapter kind of talks about moving forward, art has many purposes. So it can serve as a way to, you know, commemorate someone or depict American ideals, like Frederick Edwin Church did Niagara Falls, or it can just be art for art's sake, which was discussed in the chapter as well. So it's kind of one of those things that it's not anything you can put in a box, right? It's something that you may have preconceived ideas about, right? Art is a painting in a fancy museum, but that's not always the case. Art can be made by someone who's not an artist even, which is what I want to focus on with the Watts Towers in a moment here. So as we move forward, the things that I highlight and kind of focus on, these are the things that will potentially be in your quizzes, right? So the quiz is not going to be about the chapter as a whole. It's going to be, I'm going to only focus on the things that I want to highlight with you guys that I think are the kind of the most important. So that's why these Zoom lectures are kind of, Zoom classes are a good way to kind of see what I'm emphasizing. I'm emphasizing this what is art question because there are a lot of preconceived notions of what art is, And this class is really about expanding your mind of what art can be and what it's for. So I'm not going to be talking about every art piece, unfortunately. I'm going to kind of highlight ones that I think have an interesting story or that I know a lot about based off of my background. It's impossible for me to know every single art piece, but the book does really have a great jumping off point to learn about the different artworks. So, okay, let me continue on here. This one in particular by Louise Nevelson, White Vertical Water, is one of those art pieces where, kind of like I was just talking with Dominic about feeling a sense of resistance in like knowing something, this piece really challenges your perception of what art is. This is one of those pieces where you look at it and you're just like, I don't get it, right? And that's okay. And what's great about this class is that it's going to give you a description of what this piece is and what it's about and what it's meant to symbolize or what sensation it's meant to kind of, you know, put out there in the world. But you might not know that right away. And that can be a very frustrating feeling. So in this class, we're going to learn about how to approach an artwork and look at it in a very methodical way so that we don't ever feel stuck when looking at art. We don't ever feel like we don't belong, right? Because let's be real, art is an elitist, you know, it's an elitist field. It's based off of the categories and values that are built from art are often rooted in capitalism. And we can see that through the category section. I want to talk about that really quick. So for example, in the book, they talk about the differences between fine art, craft, and commercial arts. The book does a really good job at saying, these are like man-made categories that folks have just decided upon, you know, throughout history as a way to organize the type of art. But what happens with that is you create a category such as fine art or primitive art. And those categories have meanings and intentions beyond them that don't necessarily tell us, you know, more about like what fine art can be. For example, okay, the narrow definition of fine art is painting, drawing, sculpture, sometimes prints. So fine art, when you define it as painting, drawing, sculpture, it's assuming that these are well-crafted pieces by geniuses, right? They are created typically by an individual artist for a single patron, an individual person who is paying this artist, and it's a very transactional kind of relationship. These artworks are considered fine art because they're pleasing, beautiful to look at, right? This is how fine art is typically understood and defined. But what happens with that is that you have all kinds of other artwork that is just as intricate and requires just as much skill, but because it doesn't cost as much, it's not considered fine art, right? So we really want to look at these categories and these values as things that have just been created by humans and don't necessarily describe what can be art, right? For example, I'm sure some of you, there's someone in this class who collects movie posters or vinyl toys or records even, right? With art on the cover. And to you, that's fine art, right? That's like the peak, the pinnacle of, you know, artistic invention, right? And so that's an example of where we can start to kind of like shatter these categories and undo them a little bit. Let's see here. So this is a painting that's talked about in the book by Agnolo Bronzino, and it is considered fine art, right, in that category of fine art. And they talk about in this painting, you can, you know, reach out and feel her fabric. It's very like tangible. You can tell there's like that velvet texture there, right? And your instinct is to think, wow, like this is, like I said, the peak, the pinnacle of like human genius, right? To create this artwork. But what a lot of people don't understand is that this oil painting was just a part of the tradition of the time, right? Oil painting was something that a lot of people knew and understood, and there is a very systematic way of creating this painting, right? So you have like your base layer, and then you create the background. Think of like the Bob Ross effect, right? It's kind of like Bob Ross, but like extra Bob Ross. But essentially anyone can do it. So it can also be perceived as commercial art, especially if this patron, right, Eleonora of Toledo, and her son Giovanni, if they are asking the artist to create this artwork for them and paying them, right? There's a transaction there. So I really want to like start to kind of dispel some of these myths about fine art. And they talked about briefly too, primitive art as being only, you know, of Africa or South America. And if you're someone of those backgrounds, you're thinking, okay, primitive means that was back in the day. This is something that's not modern, right? That's not inventive, and we know that that's not true, right? I have ancestors that go all the way back to Mesoamerica, right? Southern Mexico, Central America. And I know that we helped invent things like pyramids, the number 0. So all this to say that when you're reading this book, I also want you to just be critical of the way that things are like framed, right? And I think this book did a good job at contrasting this beautiful portrait by Bronzino to this beautiful logo of FedEx Express, right? And how graphic design has really also created the space for fine art and creating images that are appealing to the eye, that really communicate a message to us. The difference between these pieces is not necessarily skill, the book is saying, but it's the time, the place, the historical context. Okay, so I want to share with you a little bit about Watts Towers. So one of the pieces that the book highlights is by Simon Rodilla, or Simon Rodilla. This piece is called Nuestro Pueblo, or Watts Towers. And this piece is in the community of Watts in Los Angeles. And I wanted to highlight this piece because Rodilla is not a traditional artist. He's not a fine artist as art history would define him, right? So Rodilla was an Italian immigrant. He came to the United States by way of Serino, Italy, then moved to Pennsylvania, and then migrated over to Seattle, Washington, Oakland, and eventually to Los Angeles. And he was an immigrant worker. He was in Los Angeles at a time where Los Angeles was not a city, it was a county. It was made up of Europeans, Mexicans, Japanese, African Americans, very diverse. And what is significant about this piece, I'm going to give you a different couple of views so you can kind of see, is that it was built on his lot, right? His 1/10 acre of a lot where his home is. And it started out with him wanting to build a replica of the ship that he sailed on over here into the United States. And from there, he started to build these kind of like steel rods. And then from there, he casted the steel rods in concrete, which is a very difficult task to do, to create these kind of curved shapes with concrete. He was really one of the first people to use that technique and really, like, you know, create that technique there. he only used these tools. And so you have this kind of like common person, laborer, we could say, in today's terms, who is wanting to kind of create a sense of place, right? And using a lot of materials that were very common in the early 20th century: cement, tile, used materials. And he is not necessarily seeking to create a Mona Lisa painting or create, the perfect cube or the perfect pyramid. He has this kind of creative impulse that the book talks about to use these discarded items, these used items. There's ceramic cups in there, there's bottles, the leftover cement from his jobs, using all of these pieces to kind of collage this tower, right? The tower is about 10 stories tall. So it's not, the tallest building in the world, but it's unique in the sense that he didn't use any scaffolding, right, to like get up there in the tower. And I have a video that I'll post for y'all, so you can kind of see his process. And so, over time, Watts Towers has been really significant to Los Angeles as a place full of immigrants, as a place that's predominantly flat, and you have these like huge towers kind of popping up, and a place that has really changed over time. The Watts Towers became a symbol of Black power during the Watts riots of 1965. And so you have these towers that really are a portrait of the city. And that's what I really love about this piece. One is that they're not made from a traditional artist. Two is, in my opinion, it's kooky, right? It's very kooky. Three, it tells us a lot about the artist as an Italian immigrant. And you can see some of that Italian influence as well, right? Because in Italy, they have all these like beautiful, ornate structures. So he's kind of replicating that, but doing it in this kind of like grungy, common person way, using materials that are not typically used for fine art, right? And so what it does is really kind of shatter our perception of what we think fine art is. Watts Towers is a place that is an art center in a community that is still a community that's rooted in poverty. And it's unfortunately not visited very often because of that. And it's really been a shame to see Los Angeles not prioritize this beautiful site, and instead prioritize things like the Hollywood sign, right? Which one has more skill level in it? That's arguable again. But yeah, so I really hope you enjoy checking out the Watts Towers. I will post a video about that. Before we go, I know we're at time right now, but this is the last thing that I really want to make sure we leave knowing today. And I promise, I only have 20 minutes today, but I promise I'll be more focused on looking at images and asking you guys what you see as well. That's part of what I do as well. So this is really important because we do have an assignment where you're going to write about art. One way to start writing about art is by following this this 1, 2, 3 method. 1, telling us what the subject matter is, so what's being depicted. There's a section in the intro to kind of help find what the subject matter is. So the definition of that is person, object, or space depicted in a work of art. So finding the subject matter. And then 2, context. There's a definition for context in here as well, but context meaning what was the historical moment? Who was the person that made it? Kind of thinking about the broader like world around, like what was happening at the time, right? And then 3, the arrangement of the visual elements and principles. So telling me what you see. Honestly, the most essential part about writing about art is just telling me what you see and describing it. This is one thing that I really love about art history. You can get really creative in defining what you see. For example, this Vermeer painting here, girl, the pearl earring. It looks very simple, right? You can just write, I see a young Dutch woman with a headdress and an earring. But what you really want to do is start to break down a lot of these visual elements and principles. For example, her stare, the muted colors, the fact that there's no background, right? And kind of just pulling apart these individual pieces. And they do a really good job with this, with talking about Hockney's painting, David Hockney, Portrait of an Artist. There's a really great description that tells you how to write about art. I believe it's on page 38 and 39. David Hockney's Portrait of an Artist has a really great visual description of what is being seen. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. Obviously, I skipped over so much, but I just want to encourage you when looking at the book to really pay attention to the images and focus less on reading every single word. The reading is engaging, but if you're someone who is just not a fan of reading and has some like attention, difficulties, which I certainly do, pay attention to the images. The images are going to be at the heart of this class. So yeah, it was really nice to meet y'all today. Yeah, please put comments in the chat. I can get back to you via email if you have questions. But I do want to be more interactive kind of next time, so I'll incorporate that. But today is our first day, a lot to get through, and I'm really confident that y'all are going to be able to do this no matter your situation at home. If you're working 9 to 5, if you've got a lot on your mind, we can work through it together. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know, each one of you individually. So thank you all. I'm going to end it here. And if you didn't put your name in the chat, make sure to do that. And yeah, I'll see you all on Thursday again at 9 a.m. I am going to make this video available too for you to review. So, all right, have a good day, y'all. Bye.
Hey.